Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover today, and we are starting with a small update regarding Insomniac's Wolverine for PS5. This is a game that was announced way back in September of 2021 with a CG trailer, and outside of that, all we really got was that, hack that revealed a bunch of really early in development footage and gameplay and pretty much everything about the game, and it seemed to really, I think, put a damper on things, unfortunately. But since then, we have yet to see another trailer or gameplay, and people are really beginning to wonder, like, what is going on with Wolverine? Is it possibly canceled? Is Insomniac still working on it? They've just been completely silent. But an individual on Twitter says, nothing for PS5, no news about Wolverine, ignoring everyone, such a great team. Insomniac actually replied to this individual and said, we're actively working on Marvel's Wolverine for PS5. We'll share news about the game when we are ready to share it. That will always be our answer. We can't act on everything requested when things take time, resources, and the green light to share them. So it's not like a major update, but they are just acknowledging that they're still actively working on Wolverine and that they will share news when they are ready. They also seem to kind of hint here that they need the green light from Sony in order to be able to talk about this game in any capacity, which maybe isn't that surprising, but still, it's, you get people out here just being completely rude and, Insomniac basically shutting them down, which is good to see. But yeah, I suspect that we will see Wolverine sometime this year. We did hear reports earlier in the year that Sony is debating whether or not they want to hold a proper PlayStation showcase. I think they should. I think they just have to make sure it's going to be a good one. And I think something that could make a PlayStation showcase very good this year is a proper look and update with Wolverine for PS5. But there you go. I also want to throw something else out here very quickly, which is, something that a lot of people have been concerned about when it comes to Wolverine. And I don't really talk about this stuff too much in my news videos, but just for anybody wondering, there have been reports circulating that apparently Sony behind the scenes has severed ties with Sweet Baby Inc. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Sweet Baby Inc., but this was like a big problem specifically with Insomniac games, with Marvel Spider-Man 2 and other PlayStation studios as well. But I just wanted to kind of throw this out here because it could maybe kind of explain why there was a sudden change in leadership for the Wolverine game, where they changed the director out of nowhere, and maybe also explains why we haven't seen anything since the official reveal. But I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. So we'll have to wait and see if we end up getting some proper gameplay this year. Moving on to the next topic, it's a small update on what we talked about in our last video, which is Sony getting ready for a big reveal this week. A big marathon reveal. Well, we have confirmation from Jeff Keighley on Twitter that this is exactly what's going to happen. He says here, spent the day playtesting marathon at Bungie, more soon. And he's not the only person to post this picture, making it clear that they're going to be sharing their thoughts and impressions on marathon soon, but many other content creators as well, specifically those who cover Bungie and extraction shooters and stuff like that. And so, yeah, if you were wondering if we were going to be actually getting a big news blowout for this game this week, it seems like, yeah, this is pretty much that confirmation. And I'm very interested. I see a lot of other people expressing interest. I think people really do want this game to be good. It's the next proper game from Bungie. But yeah, we shouldn't have to wait too long now. Moving on to the next topic, we are talking about a major piece of news regarding the Switch 2 that came out just the other day, which is pre-orders for the Switch 2 in the US are frozen right now due to tariffs. So there is an original story here from Push Square and an update. The original story says the United States is on the verge of imposing significantly higher tariffs on all imported goods, and onlookers are concerned about the immense impact this will likely have on the price of the PS5. From April 5th, 2025, a blanket 10% will be applied to all goods coming into the US, and in addition, greater levies will be put in place for some 60 countries starting April 9th. While this is, of course, infinitely grander in scale than just the cost of games and consoles, The price of the PS5 is a good example of the effect these changes will have on luxury and everyday items. China is being hit with a tariff of at least 54%, making products mass-produced in the country, like the PS5, significantly more expensive to import. These costs are likely going to be passed on to the masses via a retail price tag. Some armchair economics on PS5 subreddit estimate that the digital edition PS5 could cost roughly $750, and the PS5 Pro could be about $1,350 with the tariffs coming into effect. While we're not certain about those figures, the reality is there will very likely be repercussions like this in the future. It's all up in the air right now, but manufacturers have already begun planning for the potential impact. And it says here, Sony, for instance, has stockpiled an inventory of PS5s in the US as a short-term measure, and it's planning to move its production pipeline elsewhere to lessen the blow. So there is an update to this article, and it says, as the US government's new tariff plans come into focus, Nintendo has announced that pre-orders in the region are being postponed indefinitely. Quote, pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will not start April 9th, 2025, in order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions, the statement reads. Nintendo will update timing at a later date. The launch date of June 5th, 2025 is unchanged. This is an unprecedented move from the company, and it shows just how serious an impact the Trump administration's tariffs may have on the gaming sector. Speaking to the game business, the ESA's Aubrey Quinn warns that the effect will be significant. Quote, what was announced yesterday will have a real and detrimental impact on the video game industry, end quote, referring to Trump's unveiling of global tariff changes. So, yeah, this is something that I think caught a lot of people off guard. I think many people were under the impression that the price point of the Switch 2 and its games were taking the tariffs into account, but as it turns out, no, those prices were pre-tariffs. So, yeah, this situation is unfolding and it's fluctuating, but this is where we stand. And so there's another article here from Push Square. The title says PS5 shielded from Trump tariffs for the time being. Forward thinking from Sony will shield the PS5 from US President Donald Trump's tariffs, but only temporarily. The manufacturer took a series of preventative measures to protect itself from any impending moves by the US government, doubling supply chains and stockpiling hardware in order to give itself a buffer. This strategy will buy the platform holders some time as it works through existing inventory before it's affected by the tariffs, but it won't last forever unless something changes. Once it's sold through its current supply of consoles and accessories, it may be forced to raise prices. That's because the majority of PS5 consoles are manufactured in China, where it would be subject to tariff rates of 54%. It could potentially manufacture US units exclusively in Japan, which would lower its tariff rates to 24%, but this will still likely result in higher hardware prices for American customers. Nico Partners analyst Daniel Ahmad explained the firm would need to evaluate how these tariffs impact current profit margins and how much they would need to increase hardware prices for the consumer. There could also be a potential impact on accessories and game pricing depending on how Sony wants to pass on costs. The good news is that the initial stockpiling, Japan manufacturing PS5 being mid to late gen at this point, profitable on a per unit basis, and PS5 Pro likely being priced at $700 in anticipation of some potential tariff impact, means that even with the price increase, the increase may not be as significant as it would be for new tech products. So while these are precarious times for practically all manufacturers at the moment, Sony's position at least seems a little more stable than others, thanks to smart thinking on Sony's part. So I just wanted to kind of throw this in here as well, because there's a lot of fear, right now, understandably, and for a lot of people, I think video games are the least of their concerns. But for those who are interested in paying attention, yeah, it's pretty clear that this is going to have a big impact on all of these consoles, all of this technology, all the games, all the hardware. It's just going to be a matter of each company deciding how they want to handle it. And so it will be very interesting to see what Sony decides to do here, because I think that if nothing changes, there's no denying that they're going to have to do something. That just seems to be the reality. The question is what, right? I mean, are we really going to see the PS5 go up to $750? I doubt that. I don't believe it. I think that Sony would be very hesitant to do something like that, because it would completely kill the momentum of the PS5 and basically ruin this generation. The idea of a Pro being $1,300, I mean, Again, man, I just don't see stuff like that happening, but maybe we could see it kind of spread out. It's hard to say. But yeah, crazy times. We'll just have to keep watching and waiting and see what happens. But guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.